All right, Dominica. I know you're just locked in. I've been getting text messages. A lady met me yesterday afternoon and said, Matt, my heart is beating. I'm beating fast. I'm having palpitations. I said, why are you having palpitations? She said she's waiting for Alex Bruno to release the results of the latest poll. Well, he's here, dressed very smartly and handsomely this morning. His tie and his white shirt, oh boy. I don't know if the poll is going to reflect. He's not told me anything, but I don't know if the poll is going to reflect the transparency there in the white shirt, you know? White is purity. Though we'll hear. So I'm going to say good morning at this time. We don't have too much time. We'll have him for about an hour this morning. We'll move on to the east of Dominica. We'll get an update there from a counselor at about 8:30 this morning. But for now, Alex Bruno is our guest for the next 1 or 60 minutes. Alex Bruno, good morning to you, sir. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, Matt. Good morning. Wonderful, great. I'm doing very well. What about you?
Well, I'm feeling okay. My mom is here, so yes. That brought further smiles on my face this morning.
Yeah, a sort of contentment, you know.
Yes,
knowing that mom is around. Mothers always do that to children whenever they're around. No matter how grown we get, a mother being around is a sense of security, a sense of belonging, a sense of. It's a feeling that cannot be explained.
Yeah.
Even if you're married and moved on, but whenever mom is around, yes.
Mom is mom.
Oh yes. Yes. And that'll always be the case, yes.
So Alex Bruno, I mean, let's just talk a little bit about some side issues there quickly before we move on to, of course, the polls.
Yeah.
I've not heard you on the Barbados elections. Have you been following this?
Yes, I have been. I was in Barbados for a couple of days prior to the election. Of course, I could not work there because it's very difficult to get to work in a system like Barbados. Although the same is not true for Dominica because we have Bajans working here and other nationals working here freely and easily. But with that being said, I observed and I asked questions on the ground. I met with interest groups and I was sure that Barbados was going to change their government when they did. Earlier this week. Last week. I didn't expect it to have been a 30-0, but I knew it was going to be a resounding result. Of course, as I said, I had not done the scientific work, so I could not ascertain exactly how things stood exactly. But I was sure, based on conversations that I have had, that Barbados was going to have a change of government.
You were sure?
Oh, yes. And
based on that change on the ground there?
Yes, I had conversations with many Bajans, and their sense of reasoning led me to believe that they were going to change their government. And I knew that was going to happen. As I said, I had no scientific data that I could present. Hopefully next election I should be doing some work there. Hopefully, if things works well. But yes, I knew that Barbados was going to have a new government.
All right. Alex Bruno, now let's get to it, they say. Everybody, heart is kind of pumping. Will we in Dominica, in terms of a general comment, do you sense the same mood there in Dominica after the polls were conducted?
In Dominica?
Yes, in Dominica. Do we?
Yes, 82% of the people that we responded to our survey suggested that we should have a change of government.
82%?
82% of the respondents to the poll.
All right. Alex, break it down for me. In terms of what were the results of the polls that you conducted for the past 2 weeks?
Well, there are several results, sir.
Yeah, give me some specifics there, yes.
Well,
in terms of the questions that were posed to...
the questions that were posed. So we had a number of questions.
Some of the questions were?
Okay. We asked the respondents to rate the performance of the government of Dominica. We also asked the respondents to rate the performance of the opposition, the official opposition, UWP. We also asked the respondents to rate government's handling of the Maria recovery. And we also asked them to tell us what their biggest priority at this time would be. Most of them would, of course, have said housing and rebuilding. We also asked them to tell us what they think is the biggest political issue in Dominica right now. And another question which was asked was the malaria relief supplies shared fairly in your area? We got responses to that also. We also asked about, well, of course, whether they were registered to vote. 90% of those people that we spoke to were registered to vote.
90%?
90%. Yes, okay. Were registered to vote. We also asked about electoral reform and whether this should be a matter in Dominica right now. I will, if you ask me the results, I'll let you know what the people think about that. We ask about the regime change. Do you think Dominica should have a regime change of government? I just told you 82% responded to the affirmative to that. And we ask a whole list of questions about party affiliations, and people were quite free to share the party affiliation that they had. We asked about the party that they voted for in 2014 general election. People were very free to say that, and that which party they most likely may vote for in the next election. People were very free to say that, but quite a number of people wanted to remain neutral or wanted to say, I'll wait and see. Over 38% of the people that we spoke with or who responded to our survey said, I am going to wait out this one to see what happens at the end of it all. So although 82% of the respondents suggested that there should be a change of government, and 90% suggested that there should be electoral reform, 38% of those people are still dangling. I'm not too sure. I'm not going to commit to you, Alex, or to the people who did the survey, what I'm going to do next time, where I'm going to vote.
38%.
38%. Also, we found out that a little under 8% of the respondents would have moved their allegiance from the DLP to the UWP.
A little, like 8%?
Yeah, 7.89%. And almost equal numbers said they would have moved, 7.62, they would have moved from the UWP to support DLP right now. And the Dominica Freedom Party polled a little under 2%. The Peapod Party, a little under 1%. So what it suggests is that in Dominica right now, it looks like a two-way fight between the Dominica Labour Party and the United Workers Party, with Freedom Party seemingly being the other party to look at. And the Peapod Party, good promise, but no presence. Well, not no presence, but very limited presence on the ground. I'm not too sure what that means or what that says for them. But this is in a nutshell what we found out.
All right. Let's look at the issue of the governance and what you poll there in terms of, the ruling regime, how well they're doing there.
Oh, well, as I said, the answer to that in terms of the aggregate nationwide is the people who were generally dissatisfied with the performance, especially the handling of Maria. This one. And 82% of those who responded to the question about the change said that there should be some form of change. Now, mark you, the question was not asked change from what to what. It just said change. And that's where most people were caught. I mean, yes, Alex, we should have a change, but to what? And I'm like, I'm not telling you, I do not know. I'm just asking whether you want to answer the question. So the answer was given. In terms of the popularity of the parties on the ground, it is in the survey. I cannot make this up. It is what people said. So if anybody wants to judge the strength of the UWP and the Labour Party or Freedom or Peapod vis-a-vis the results that we just discussed, it's a matter for them. It's not for me to do. It's my mandate is to report the results as accurately as I possibly could from the masses out there, Matt. And even before I go on, I want to thank the public, because the people's opinion is invaluable. We cannot pay for this. And when people are willing to give you their opinion, you have to be also gracious and willing to share it honestly and consciously. And that is what I'm doing this morning, sharing the result as I got it. No, I won't share the entire maggot because, it's too much information to go through. But I will just discuss the general ideas as we're discussing now.
All right. So we have seen, say, for example, in comparison, change in Barbados, for example.
Yes.
Just our neighbors there. Do we feel that kind of sense that
on the ground? Yes. And I think I heard some comments about Dominica not being as affluent as Barbados. I would like to dispel that notion. I think our people are as affluent because we're in the same regional hub, and we all think similarly, about politics and governance. The only difference I think with us and Barbados is that the level of the discourse is on a different tangent, where you find more media practitioners engage the political players and ask them big questions which they should answer, and their debates and their organized forum for information dissemination. In Dominica, we do not quite have it that way, so I think that's a difference here. But Dominicans and Bajans think alike.
Do you think, Alex, coming out of this latest poll, that we need, say, discuss a debate between the two leaders?
One debate?
Yes, one debate.
A few debates. It's beginning yesterday. We should have several national debates among the leaders, not just these two, but all four leaders. Well, five, because Party is still established. Mm-hmm. We have Peapod, we have Freedom, we have Workers, and Labour. We should have national debates ongoing. That is how the young people learn. Matt, you would be amazed the thing that the young people have been telling me out there. The level of political knowledge, Matt, it is almost zero to none. I mean, one particular young lady in Gutter community sang a verse of a song to me about workers. One power don't want workers, and she said it's her idol who sang the song. I didn't know the artist, but I listened to the song. And if that's what they consume and that's how they analyze and rationalize politics, I think,
repeat that line there.
I think she sang a song about workers want power, but power don't want workers. So I said, What exactly does that mean? She said she do not know, but is this artist who sang it, I think he was, I can't remember the name of the youngster.
Kenny G, is that one?
Kenny G. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, it's interesting. It's a new twist. And I want to see this Kenny G guy to ask him about his philosophy, because probably he's onto something that I do not know. But that is what that young 15-year-old was chanting, and she didn't want to hear anything else. So if that is the level at which the young people discuss politics, I'm not downplaying Kenny G's worth and his performance, because that's what we have to study. Mm-hmm. Exactly the impact that these people have and how it resonates with the people. And if it does, fine, but we have to understand what it is. Mm-hmm. So I just find, Matt, we have a lot of work to do. The education process has to continue. It has to be accelerated. And I'm hoping that you, Matt, do more, even more than you're doing right now. And I'm hoping that the other media houses embrace me and do not shun me or do not brand me as a colored professional, because I'm not. I'm just one who's willing to help, especially the children.
I like the shirt, the white.
Oh yeah, it's neutrality, not purity. I don't think white is pure. I think more black is more pure than white. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a neutral color with my musical artist eye.
Alex, let's go to the issue of leadership. Was that a big question?
Well, we asked a few questions on leadership. The questions were, which party leader do you think is more about self rather than country? We also asked, which party leader strikes you as being more honest? Mm-hmm. We also asked, which party leader would you like to see lead Dominica? And there was another question, which party leader seems more people-centered? And the final question on leadership was, which party leader is more suited for the time? Mm-hmm. So we asked those questions in terms of leadership to understand how the respondents felt about the...
What was some of the responses?
I'm not too sure I want to divulge the results of that.
Why not?
Well, because you see, Matt, the data which we collected was collected after 2 weeks of very hard work. Mm-hmm. And there are other polls being conducted.
Okay. As we speak. Okay.
Yes. We crossed paths with a pollster in Soufriere. We also missed one by a day in St. Joseph. And I know who's doing the polls and who commissioned it and who is conducting it. So they're going to find out the same thing that we find out. I'm not going to do all this hard work and come and give all the information on the radio, Matt. I can discuss with you one-on-one. Mm-hmm. And if the leaders want to talk to me, let's talk. But I'm not going to just go ahead and say everything that we found. I'll be happy to speak to people with interest. But no, I am not going to discuss the strength of the leaders, although some people would like me to and some won't. And
any surprises there? That's all I'm asking. A general question.
No, in terms of the honesty and the seeming honesty of the people who present themselves as leaders, no, there's no surprise in that. And in terms of the selfishness of particular leaders, in terms of people who believe that it's about them first and country second, there's no. I didn't.
I'm just asking you more general questions in the term that you somewhat have some reservation in some of the results that you found. Is Mr. Scary still very popular?
But how do you gauge and
I'm just asking you.
No, how do you measure popularity? Mm-hmm. It's a very difficult thing to measure.
Right.
I mean, you can hardly even measure popularity. You can gauge one leader against another. For instance, you could look at Patrick John's policy and how he was polled or surveyed during his time of leadership, and then compare him to Dame Eugenia or Edison James or now Roosevelt Skerritt or the other prime ministers. You cannot compare Skerritt against Arlington in terms of popularity. It just doesn't work that way. So you can look at time periods of leaders and judge them. You cannot look at a leader now in government and judge him against a leader in opposition. That's why the questions were shaped the way they were shaped. Which one you think strike you has been more honest? Which one you think is the one that's more suited for the time? Which one you think is more centered among self rather than country? So in that case, we have results. If you want to think based on how the results are that this one is more popular, that is a matter for you to conclude. I cannot conclude popularity based on...
In terms of the question you asked about which one is more suited for the time, it's what?
It is a little mixed.
It's a little mixed.
Almost 50-50 split in terms of... Yeah, that's it for that answer, yes.
Some people will say, what?
Yes, it's a little more heavily weighted towards Roosevelt Skerritt,
right,
the leader of the Dominica Labour Party. I'm not going to give percentages out, but it's a little more slanted towards.
All right, of course, I'm going to give you a chance. I know you want to ask all the questions. Today's a very historic day in Dominica, May 29th. Remember,
yes,
Alex?
I remember. Well, I don't remember quite clearly, but I know.
You know.
Of the political happenings on that day. Last year, Matt, when we released the results of my poll, we chose that date because we think it holds political significance in Dominica. And this year, when we finally came around to designing a model and we felt that we could release the results of the poll, we saw how closely the results would coincide with the May 29th date. So we felt that we should release the result of the polls on that date also. And I believe that parties and politicians and institutions like yours should forever mark this day, because May 29 is a very significant political day, not a day that I would like to see revisited, but it's a day that should be marked in our history. And over the years, Matt, it has not been marked. I do not know why.
I'll tell you what, Alex, I have said over and over and over again, but no historians have maybe picked up on that. During the 70s, I think is not as documented as I'm saying we would have liked to, because a lot of children. Even I woke up to my telling my child, attempting to tell my child the stories there of the 70s. She asked me, what, May 29, 1970? They don't know, Alex.
No.
The college students there, they don't know what was going on. What did we do wrong?
But they do not know what happened in 1985, 1990. I'm telling you, Matt, and I'm talking about college students on the ground who really do not know. No, it's not my duty to go out there teaching them, there's a program that we do on Q95 called Politics and Power. We try our best there. I'm not a politician, and I am not, even if I am being paid to educate, but there's that much I can do as one person. I think a number of us can do it. There are a lot of people who know the history of Dominica who, for some reason or the other, just prefer to remain mute. I almost feel like I am putting myself out there as a lamb to be slaughtered, but I really do not bother about it, because you know what? I do my work, and I challenge any of the respondents to call you this morning and say that when our staff came through, we sounded biased, we sounded partisan, we sounded unfair.
What is the sample size? You would
1%.
1%
of the voting population per constituency.
So that's the sample size.
That is the standard sample size for electoral polls and such undertakings. And we did a random convenient sampling. We met with the people that we met over 62% of the people we met declared themselves as Labour supporters.
Repeat again.
62% of the individuals that we met in our sampling declared themselves as supporters of the Labour Party. And 38% declared themselves as supporters of the UWP.